And welcome back, guys. This is, are we at it? Is this 20? 20,
20.
20. Maybe you need it that way. I don't know.
I know.
So episode 20,
That's
again,
three.
it's
I
been a
can't.
ride. There we
Hey, I
go.
got
Got the
balloons. Thank you.
balloons. There we go.
That was pretty
Um,
cool.
again, I don't know, does the show get any better or did we just get, I don't know.
We get better.
Okay, good. I think so. Again, as always, glad to be here. Stephen James over this the way. There we go. And I'm
I still can't
Scott.
figure out to move left and right and point
No,
this
it's
way and
like
that
if you go,
way.
I'm
And
not sure where it's at. Um, but Scott Nelcon, Stephen James, talking uh again, if you've already seen us or listened to us before, thank you for coming back. And if this is the first time, welcome. Again, we talk about music and kind of mostly metal, hard rock. We will. And I think it's a good challenge. We're going to be digging into maybe kind of what bands, and I don't know, what would you call it? Guilty pleasure is, which could be a whole other topic. So let's all be careful
I
there.
think kind of the 80s would be kind of
But
fun to
just
talk
80s,
about.
right? But
Yeah, like
you know,
80s, anything.
yeah. So would we throw out, like Duran Duran or go into Flock of
Cyndi Lauper.
Seagulls, Cyndi Lauper? Yeah, I think again we want to kind of stretch it a little bit. It's all music that we've listened to at some point in time. So we'll go ahead and just throw some
So
stories
I
about
think I
that
think that
time.
it
And
what it, I think what it might kind of work into is how MTV started, which started when we were younger and getting and being into bands, and MTV came out and all these 80s bands were flooding TV because we had no idea. We were just radio and
absolutely,
music and records, and all of a sudden now we can actually see what the bands are doing, which was I mean, iconic.
it was, yeah, absolutely.
Iconic.
Yeah, there's many a memory, if I can say that, many a memory of
Yeah.
the first band on YouTube. Geez, who knows what the first band on YouTube was?
It
That's
was
how
it
far
was
we
no con.
progressed.
It was no
But
con.
yeah, but the first band on MTV, the the Buggles, right? Video killed the radio star.
Video killed the radio star.
Yeah. So
Fucking
yeah,
cool.
definitely. And I also remember seeing a lot of Dio, Rainbow in the Dark, kind of
Yeah.
just in normal rotation, and some other bands. So yeah, again, a little bit of a tease of what's coming up in future weeks. But again, leave comments on any of the locales that we're at. Again, YouTube, on Instagram, and on Twitter.
X.
Yeah, X, that thing. But let us know the
Twixer.
type of theme. So in that, you came back because you wanted to hear part two of what we're talking about. So we were talking about Metallica and kind of the history of their records. A quick recap where we left off from last week. Again, as many as you know, and again, if this is actually informational to you now because you're just not the biggest Metallica fan, then great. And so maybe you're,
Yeah.
certainly you've heard, and we're getting into their, dare I say, their more commercial phase next, but it was
Yeah.
definitely an evolution. So where they were just kind of just thrown out with some raw aggressive thrash in '83 with Kill 'Em All, and then progressing into, just on the verge of being arena superstars in their own right, on Master
Yeah.
Puppets, going into And Justice for All.
For sure.
What set the world on fire, I think. And I remember the first time I heard this record. This is Metallica, maybe more affectionately known as the Black Album.
Yeah.
Remember hearing it for the first time. I was outside the country club in Reseda, and was, records back then used to come out on a Tuesday, right, Stephen? And then
I
they
think they
switched
still
it to
do.
Friday.
Oh,
Do
did they?
they?
I
I
thought they
thought they
still,
do.
I thought
Yeah,
maybe it's movies that come out on Tuesdays.
yeah. Either way, I remember hearing it for the first time, and Bob Rock was the producer. He did the Cult. He did Motley Crue. Many bands. He's got a sound. not like a Mutt Lange sound, which I think is pretty, recognizable. I think Bob Rock was more a matter of just the level of quality, right? And the sound and bringing it out. And again, there's a whole movie kind of wrapped around the years with Bob Rock being essentially an additional member of the band,
Yeah,
where they went
I
into it.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, in that, again, I think there's no denying, and it's overplayed by now, but Enter Sandman still, to this day, is one of the classic songs off that. The Unforgiven for sure, but name a few others off that record, because it got, again, I listened to it many, many times, and there's some bangers on that as well.
So some of the songs that I liked from that was Through the Never, which is a great
Okay.
song. People are like, what? Who? I
Yeah,
don't know that.
yeah,
Sandman is definitely the more commercial, which
yeah,
I mean, you hear it on the radio all the time, and it's a fun for being a drummer. It's a fun drum song to play.
yeah,
Yeah, that was when everybody said, "Oh, Metallica sold out. They went commercial," and everybody's going to have their opinions about music.
right.
But there's another one called oh God, I had my notes for My Friend of Misery, which is another good song. So there's some, a few good songs on that album that are probably not as known. When people hear that album, all they think of is Sandman. Again, it's
Totally.
a good song, but when when you hear the uh, was it commercialized? Mm, okay, that's
Yeah, it's I think, 91, right? So what was going on in music in 91? There,
yeah,
there was a lot of the Seattle scene that was huge, right, at that time, coming through. At least the early stages of it got a little bit more prominent right in 94,
right.
which again, that's when, you know, Kurt Cobain went away. But in that,
Unfortunately,
the transition that went from the mid to late 80s and the metal scene, and more local for us, the Hollywood scene and everything that was about
yeah,
that. When you got into 90, 91, and then grunge came forward, and
fast.
it was that there's a lot to be said, and this is a whole other show, and we always do this
I
purposely or not. We
know.
just, oh, there's another show, another show, another show. But in that, and I kind of like this, there was a let's see, was it Jay-Z or Dr. Dre? And both, I'll attribute both, and then I'll fact check myself and give you the most accurate quote. But in that, it might have been Dr. Dre. I'll kind of lean on that. The, some say, I won't say it, but the LA metal scene, just the, more of the glam rock and all that kind of genre was killed because of the Seattle scene and others. And he came out and said it wasn't killed because of the Seattle scene, it was killed because they weren't writing good songs. And so I
Very
wanted,
true.
that's a little talking, but I want to dig into it, and I'm going to pull that clip as well so we can actually quote it verbatim. And then when we do a video episode, we'll go ahead and drop some of that stuff in. But it really was, and again, I appreciate that, where someone who is a highly respected, to me, highly respected and a game changer in the music industry of both Dr. Dre and Jay-Z,
Right.
but call
And
it like you see it. Yeah.
that was kind of, and I actually even remember where I was driving when that whole thing was happening and hearing the end of KNAC. For those that remember KNAC, I'm sure some of you do. And I think there's a Facebook page dedicated to it.
Yeah, yeah,
But KNAC for us was the only heavy metal radio station that we listened to. And as soon as, and I'm not knocking grunge, because
no,
there's some really good music and talented musicians that came out and have come to be amazing musicians to this day. I'm not going to say Dave Grohl, but I remember like the last day of listening to KNAC and thinking, "Holy crap! Is this the end of an era?" And
yeah,
being a heavy metal guy for, I'd say rock and roll to begin, but the heavy metal guy to this day, it was sad. It was like, what's going on? And then that for me drove me into more going back to my roots of getting all my Metallica and Quiet Riot and Queensryche and all my old DVDs, that too, CDs, and going, I can't buy into it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, and I'm going to do this and fill a little time because I want to pull something up. But as far as like what was going on in 91, because I know we say that, and then, you know, I don't want to leave you guys hanging, but in that, just I can do this fairly
Talking
quickly.
is also ADHD for us, wanting to talk about a topic and going off topic because we think it's relevant. So
Yeah, and we will do that. So in that, and there is purpose, there is a purpose to this, guys. So we're going to
absolutely
stay with us. But when we
bear
talk
with it.
about, you know, so 1991, and we'll kind of wrap this around, put it together into a nice bouquet, if we can, a musical bouquet. How's that? Who did you think when you tuned in today that you would hear a
I
musical bouquet?
I had no idea you would even say that.
Yeah, I didn't either. So.
I'm actually impressed.
So in that, Metallica 1991, again, the Black Album.
Mm,
So what else was notable in 91? So, you know, again, there was, let's just kind of stick to some events here. So
Alanis
again,
Morissette.
yeah, as we talked about it, and she just came through Nashville a couple nights ago, and I heard really good reviews. So
She's an amazing songwriter and singer,
yeah,
by the way. I
so
like her.
1991 is also known as kind of the breakthrough for grunge, right? Um, you know, never mind, you know, teens like smell spirit.
That
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
But what about
Smells like Teen Spirit, right?
Jane's
Most popular
Addiction?
album. Yeah, all those. Yeah, because Lollapalooza was really prominent in 91 too. So
Yeah.
the most popular album of the year, what we're talking about here, Metallica by far, and that's, you know, that's sold many, 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 many millions of records.
Yes, it did.
But then you get into where you know, Nirvana kind of kicked open the door. There was the tour going, a tour going on that year. It was Metallica. Take that back. It was Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and oh Jesus,
Motley Crue. No, I'm kidding.
yeah. Well, yeah, there ended up being Soundgarden ended up touring with Metallica in '96.
That
We'll
makes
get here in a
sense.
second, but there was three bands that all toured together: Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and
Maybe oh God, what's that band?
that's just so funny. It's like,
I
what's
know
going on
it's
here?
so it's right on the tip of my
Oh,
tongue.
it was Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nirvana, and Pearl
Okay,
Jam.
there you
That
go.
was the big tour. And Chili Peppers weren't grunge, obviously, but yeah, that was the big thing. LA Sports Arena, which we've talked about prominently on the show in the past, was the big record.
What's the
So
Scott Weiland band?
Stone Temple Pilots.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Another
So
good
again,
band.
you know, Orange County, they kicked open the door as well.
Yeah.
And again, with that, you know, Metallica was kind of riding the wave of their success with 91. That was the yes,
That too.
Wherever We May Roam tour that covered 3 years, you know, parts of 3 years. 91, 92, 93. Of course, you talk about another band that made it to the big time back in '87. Now they were going into kind of Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, the Metallica Guns N' Roses co-headlining, which I saw that, and it was kind of a debacle, right? That was when Axel was misbehaving, so there was just a lot of, you know, hijinks going on. But then I remember also seeing a show with Metallica where Faith No More opened for him at the Irvine
Such a great
Meadows.
band.
Yeah, so that was on their pinnacle right there with that record, which I will tell you it is in one moment because it's their big record.
You want it
Yeah,
all. Yeah,
thank you.
such a good
Yeah.
song. I'm not
So
a singer.
no, and that
Sorry.
was just fine. Yeah. So in that, and again, my point in all this is where we saw, you know, grunge was kicking down the door and becoming more prominent. Metallica really, you know, this is, if you like it or not, and let's say from a popularity, from a record sales, from a being a worldwide entity at this point
Right.
with this record.
Yes.
With now at the same time the glam metal and the hard rock that was beginning to
That
see,
was gone.
they're kind of going down the hill in 91, like with the Crew and Poison, Warrant, Cinderella Rat. Um, they were still selling in 91, but that's when they started to kind of dip. And then Guns N' Roses, as we talked about, with Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, they both sold 15 million records each.
And also too, I think Bon Jovi kind of surpassed it too, scathingly.
Yeah.
Kind of got through with some of their stuff because I think they've changed kind of the way I don't know that they did their country thing then, but I read some interesting articles about them and actually hearing an interview with John himself saying that, when that came through, we still were doing our thing. Maybe not as big,
Mhm.
but they made it through it, which is a triumph because, as you're alluding to, a lot of bands didn't make it through, and they did on a quieter scene, right?
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
you're like this whole big grunge thing came through, Alice in Chains, um, all these bands came through, and again, I don't have a dislike for that music, because there's a lot of talented musicians and a lot of great songs, and a lot of these guys have gone on to either bigger bands or different bands, and now they're starting to come back because I just heard that not Soundgarden, I'm sorry, who's the um oh god, edit this out.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Eddie Vedder,
Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam
Yeah,
is going on a huge tour again, and it's creating some pretty big waves. So
it is. Yeah, and
anyhow,
they have that new record. I've heard a track, and it was kind of a rockin' song, so I do have to kind of maybe spend some time, but in
and it would
that kind
also
of
be I'm sorry, it'd also be
no.
kind of fun to pull up bands like Weezer, and that kind of like interesting geek rock, because I think that there's always been this raw metal edge, always kind of in the background
Mhm.
going through. And anyhow, I
Yeah,
digress.
no, I agree. But in that, so again, this is our short attention span theater, right? Where we're kind of going off on everything.
Like a gnat.
The convergence of 91, and it's kind of cool now just going through. So we're going to give you not only a history of 1991, but then and this will allow me to skip over the next three records
Yes.
from Metallica. Definitely the
Yes.
next two, because I don't want to talk about Load and I don't want to talk about
No.
Reload.
No.
Um, but prior to that, I know you mentioned this earlier, Stephen. We sorry, but and I didn't mean to do so, but we jumped right over Garage Days, which sits right up there. That might even be like my third favorite Metallica release,
It
which
was
was
different.
written, kind of. It wasn't a record company obligation, I don't believe, as much as just getting Jason Newsted into it to be able to say, "Hey, let's go record some covers. Let's get you
Yeah.
kind of acclimated into the whole setting, into the band, and then before you realize it, we're going to just jump up to a whole other stratosphere."
Well,
Um,
there's two of them. There's Garage Days Revisited and there's Garage Days Inc., which are two different entities.
yes,
And Garage Days Inc. is the covers, which I really liked.
yes,
I thought that was freaking stellar. And I got a handful, especially Merciful Fate. Sorry, that was my first one. And I was like, yes, thank you. Um, and that Garage Inc. And I know we're skipping over albums, but I think Garage Inc. has a little bit of a mark to make, that they did some really good cover tunes, I'm probably going off script here. Well, we don't have a script.
yeah. So
Merciful Fate, Blitzkrieg, Whiskey in a Jar, which everybody's like, oh, that's so overrated. And I'm like, still a good tune.
yeah,
And here's one which is one of my favorites is Stone Cold Crazy by Queen, because the band I was in we did a cover song of that before Metallica did it. And I thought, oh, this is a great, we're doing a Queen tune. And then a year later, Metallica comes out and does it. And I'm like, shit, we did it first.
Yeah, those guys stole it.
Fuckers.
Yeah, so
Anyhow.
we were talking about again just the in 91 is cool too because there's such a convergence. Maybe at the time it was a little manic, but the
Very.
country with Garth Brooks and Reba and others what were kind of coming out even bigger. They were already big in their own right? But that's when all these different which I know you're a Garth Brooks fan. I know it
Hey, look,
deep down inside. Yeah.
I like Garth Brooks. I don't like that he talks about himself in first person, but or third person, whatever the hell you call it.
Yeah.
But I got some mad respect for Garth. So
No, for sure. Yeah,
and I got respect for Reba too.
yes, yeah. So in that, and I said those purposely, not to make fun, but more to kind of frame out where 91 you had hip hop, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, you had thrash, that was still around to some extent. But you had the kind of the old school of the Cinderellas and the Motley Crues that were starting to kind of dissipate a little bit. But then a whole new set of music. You mentioned Perry Farrell and Jane's Addiction.
Jane's Addiction.
July 18th of 91, that's when they launched the first Lollapalooza tour. And
huge now.
it served also as at least at the time, the dissolution of Jane's Addiction, which now Jane's Addiction is going on a tour this summer.
Yeah.
And they're doing a co-headlining tour with Love and Rockets. That's really intriguing. So
wow.
I've been a Love and Rockets fan. And we'll talk about that in our
band.
80s show. Yeah.
Good band.
But Susie and the Banshees, Nine Inch Nails, Rollins, Fishbone, and Rage Against the Machine. I remember seeing that Lollapalooza.
Fishbone.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. And then on August 12th, just a month later, that's when this record came out. Which again, as we talked about, Metallica and again, more formally known as the Black Album. There's actually a snake on there, Don't Tread on Me, right? That sometimes based on the angles, you don't really even notice it.
Yeah. It is weird because you had to twist it to the side.
Yeah. Going through, Pearl Jam again in August released their debut. We talked about it. Dr. Dre, he pled no contest to charges. All right.
I imagine that.
Nirvana in September, Smells Like Teen Spirit. September 17th.
A lot happened in that.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses. Use Your Illusion 1 and 2.
That was again, that could be another show too, is the demise of GNR with Axl. So
yeah, it could, but that at the time, that sold over 1.3 million records.
Isn't that amazing?
In its first week.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that just blew people away. Soundgarden releases Bad Motorfinger in October.
Good band.
Bryan Adams starts a 16-week tour,
Hey.
Izzy Stradlin quits Guns N' Roses.
Tragic.
U2 releases Achtung Baby in November.
Amazing record.
Freddie Mercury a week later, not even a week later, and there's no connection between U2 and Queen, but just from a timeline perspective, November 24th, that's when Freddie Mercury passed away from complications from AIDS. But before that, he, the final show that everyone got to see and experience in Live Aid. And then really, I didn't actually realize this. So we're giving you a history of 91 as well. Yes, because I'm not talking about Load and Reload, Stephen. Same day as Freddie Mercury. How's this for kind of, and not in a inappropriate or disparaging way, but stealing the headline, Eric Carr of Kiss died that same day.
How do you get heart cancer?
I don't know. Yeah.
He was, look at, if anybody was going to take Peter Criss's spot, was Eric Carr.
Yeah.
And I was all about Eric Carr. And when that happened, was like, it was so devastating. I know, look at ADD, ADHD. We are all over this music scene. But the idea
But
that
so much facts, there's so much
we are giving
information.
so much
Yeah.
facts and information about music during the time frame that we're talking about is what's important.
Yeah.
Sad.
No, it is. Let's see. I think this will be kind of a
And let's just real quick, and we'll talk about Eric Carr, that the last video they did, and I what was God Gave Rock and Roll to you, but he had just got out of heart surgery and came to do the video
okay.
out of the hospital, and then went back to the hospital after the video, which
Mm.
is like, talk about dedication. So
Yeah.
anyhow,
Wow. No, that's yeah, I didn't know that. So
very cool.
again, a ton of records came out in 91, along with Metallica.
Wow.
Butthole Surfers, Great White. Great White fan. Amy Grant, there we go.
Not
Heart and
really.
Emotion. Teddy Pendergrass, there we
Hey,
go. Mind Funk, they were a cool band, kind of that was during the kind of the punk kind of skate thrashy
stop.
convergence. Eurythmics, Greatest Hits, there we go. Talking about
Another
some
good band.
country earlier, we got George Strait. So again, it was I get it, you probably go year by year. There was a lot of different styles, but definitely 91 to me was like a huge melting pot. You know, just in a matter of a couple days, you go from Kim Carnes to Rod Stewart to Bob Dylan to Metal Church to Mr. Big to No Effects to Enough's Enough to White Cross
Wow.
to Sepultura to
Wow.
White Lion to the Stones, Crash Test Dummies, Simple Minds, Pat Benatar, all these, and Alanis Morissette, her
Oh
debut.
my God.
You know,
That's like
you're all over the place. It's like
that's
Temple of the Dog then came out. King Missile, remember? King
yeah.
Missile, what was that? Inflatable Peanut, I remember what that was.
Gotta
Firehouse,
say so. A
Fishbone.
good
There
that
we go. Fishbone. Charlie
Firehouse is a
Daniels.
good band too.
Firehouse, yeah. Michael Bolton, Luther Vandross,
I'll pass on that.
Boys to Men.
That too.
Yes.
A good
Fan
band.
of Yes. Morbid Angel, the Melvins.
Mhm.
So yeah, Huey Lewis. Okay, yeah.
That's
Nice. Huey.
insane. The amount
All that,
of
all that.
that's insane. The amount of
Bananarama.
different.
Yeah.
Really?
Ice-T, OG, the original gangster. That's a good one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I'll leave it at this one, though I gotta say Tough, because remember Tough from LA. And
Yeah.
then same day, and this probably knocked him out of, debuting at a higher, you had Paul Abdul.
Hey.
So that's it. Look at the year. If you can say Metal Church, Paul Abdul, OMD, Charlie Daniels, Bananarama, Amy Grant, and Sepultura, all within
That's
like that
that's
10-second
so
on this
insane.
show. There's
That's
like
so
there's
insane.
nothing that we won't touch. Well,
That's so insane.
there's so I think we kind of, so in case you were wondering, I did all
You're
that
so fucking
purposely
funny.
to not talk about load and reload. I will talk about Saint Anger,
Hey,
right? 2003.
I hated Lars snare sound on that album, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck. It was horrible.
Yeah. And I remember coming out, and it's wild that it's 21 years later, because
Ugh.
it came out and Saint Anger and Frantic Tick Tock. It was kind of like, I don't know. I still really, honestly, I don't really know what to think of that record.
I don't either.
It just kind of sounds just like a bunch of bullshit,
It
you
was like
know?
I don't know. They put the microphones, I don't know. They detuned and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good because it's Metallica, but the sound was just shit as far as
Yeah.
I was concerned.
Yeah.
And Lars' snare, the drums are horrible.
Yeah. So before we run out of time, because we took you down that memory lane of 1991. So, hopefully that sparks some memories for you guys. But Death Magnetic 5 years later in 2008, I like that. All Nightmare Long, The Day That Never
Cyanide.
Comes. Yeah, Cyanide.
I have that. The Day the Night Here Comes, and Broken, Beaten, and Scarred is another fucking great song.
And I didn't realize, and 72 Seasons obviously is what came out, what, about 14 months ago now?
Yeah.
Maybe closer to a year and a half. But I didn't realize between Death Magnetic and Hardwired was 8 years.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And then it was another 7, technically, from Hardwired to 72 Seasons.
Isn't that
So,
crazy?
obviously they front loaded their career, more so out of necessity, and record labels telling them, you got to get in there, you got to record, you got to tour, you got to record, which is the rinse and repeat. Once they established themselves, which was done many, many decades ago, as the premier metal rock band, period. They got back all their masters. Everything is now
Yeah.
released through Metallica. Blackened Recordings, right? Blackened Recordings.
Yeah.
They own their own record pressing company. So all the different variants, when you get the different vinyls with the colors, they
Right.
make all those so they can control their distribution, which is, you control the publishing, you can
Metallica
control,
is their entity.
yeah. And HQ is where they're, truly their headquarters.
Yeah.
But it's called HQ up in San
San
Francisco
Francisco.
area, right? So that they produce their own merchandise, they write their own music. They're like the metal version of Taylor Swift, right? Who owns all the
And
masters. It's like
and
you're when you're that big, sorry, when you're that big, and I
no,
didn't
go.
really, and I'm not defending or making fun of any other artist, but when you look at that, when you reach a certain pinnacle, you can truly control it all. Now there's
Absolutely.
very few that can do it, but if you can do it, then that's like business 101 to the 10th degree, to the
Absolutely.
billionth degree. You control it all, and then you control your future.
And if you look and I would highly suggest people go subscribe to their YouTube channel. The shorts are fun because it shows James right before the show. He'll light a cigar and
Mhm.
he smiles at people. Like, when you see James back back in the day before they hired Robert Trujillo, he was going through his alcohol problem, and
Yeah.
we didn't know if the band was going to break up. It was tragic. There's a lot of video documentary on it. But
Oh
when you
yeah,
see it
yeah,
now and you see James, he just smile like James from Kill 'Em All, Anger, to
yeah,
James now is like smiling and enjoying that they have created their biggest empire and they own it all. They can do what they want. They have fun with what they do. Even if they fuck up a note or two, they giggle at it.
yeah,
Lars can't hit a note or whatever, or fucks up on the drum intro. Who gives a shit? They're having fun. And the whole idea about music is having fun. And that's what Scott and I do, is we talk about music and we have fun with it. It goes all over the road. We talk about this, we go ADHD on this, that, and the other, but it's all about having fun and discussing things that matter to us and hopefully matter to you all out there. When we talk about all these different bands, we have so many ideas, and every time we have a show, we're like, hey, there's an idea for a new show, there's an idea for a new show. But this Metallica thing is important to us because we both grew up on this band, and this band has been huge influence on us. And there's some good stuff and there's some not so good stuff, and that's what talking is all about.
and that's what it is. Yeah, and I think we'll kind of end it here, Stephen. Is
I
again,
ramble on.
no, I did plenty myself. So in that, again, hopefully you guys learned a little bit more about Metallica. Hopefully it was interesting. Again, leave your comments. Let us know what you think.
Oh, the merch.
Yeah. Again, you go out to 99WNRR.com. You can pick up some Talking Shh merchandise. There's t-shirts, there's sweatshirts, there's coffee mugs, there's beer mugs. There'll be some other items we'll probably add in the later part of summer. A maybe another launch. So again, we try to keep the prices down, so it's affordable. Just covering the cost plus maybe just a little, a little crumb or two on top of it. So if you like it, if you like just the design and you like the colors, check it out. So that's it for, yeah, number 20. Number 20. So again, as always, Instagram. I almost said Facebook again. It'll be out there just because I'm so locked into it. But Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, new shows every week, videos out on YouTube, doing the reels on Instagram, doing the shorts on YouTube. Subscribe, comment, like, tell us, talk to us as well.
Yeah.
But
And we
until,
appreciate it.
yeah, until next time, I think the only thing I can guarantee is we'll probably talk about more than a few topics. We'll go down a couple rabbit holes. We'll keep it moving, but I will tell you that we're always going to keep it fresh, and we're always going to be inspired, and we're going to have fun. And Stephen, as always, appreciate you, appreciate your time.
I appreciate you too, brother.
Take care, guys.
Cheers.
See ya.